are you?
How you doing, sir?
We're starting a little later because I know you had a high-powered business meeting today.
Exactly. Yeah. See, did I lose you?
How'd you hit him?
Pretty good.
No, I'm still here.
I'm trying to find. Let's see. I lost my screen.
Well, let me try another button here.
Wait. No, I got it. There we go.
Now you're on?
All right. Yep.
Okay. I had you on this one for a minute. Did that kick you off?
I don't know. No, I've got like a million screens open. Hello, hello, everybody.
That happens. Well, welcome to our millions and millions of loyal viewers. Great to have everybody. I get to hear from a few every once in a while. That's fun. A lot of questions. So I've got down in the bottom there, you can see the little feed that said our chat is on. And so we got Terry saying, I'm glad I was here early. There's still room. Yes. Thank you, Terry. That's great. So we're actually going to go over some interesting stuff today because, you and I aren't trying to predict where the market's going. We're not saying there's going to be a crash. We just want to share the same numbers that we see every day with everybody else out there so that when something changes, we can get a sense of whether or not there's, anything about to happen. We don't make any long-term projections. And I kind of put some notes and I said, but however, first-time home buyers are in a pinch. And it's not a good time to be a first-time home buyer. There's no doubt. It's frustrating. It's brutal. That will eventually balance out. We just don't know when. Mm-hmm. And there isn't a manipulation of the market. There isn't a hidden agenda. There aren't realtors that are trying to inflate prices or investors trying to push out the little guy. And I base that on comments I see on YouTube. It's just kind of a market anomaly right now because of where we're at. Central banks have to intervene in our market right now to keep us afloat. And it's got good things that come with it and bad things. And I think down the road, we may see some really ugly stuff. But right now, based on the numbers, just looking forward a few months, it's going to be more of the same, I think. Yeah, so I wanted to kick some of those numbers around today, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share a screen here. And I want to talk a little bit about YouTube headlines because there's no shortage of YouTubers out there that are telling you that the end is near. So do we see that right there, Pat?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. It's happening. Housing crash. Be ready for the housing crash. Housing market crash. Housing crash 2021. I hope Javier found the right how to grow a beard fast formula yesterday. For those that watched it on his comments, he got he went to Google to show you how to do a search, and he had already searched how to grow a beard fast, and it was still up there. They are hammering him in the comment section. Here's another one: housing bubble 2.0, housing market. Look at this: 2020, a $600,000 house. In 2021, it's going to be $300,000. Not a snowball's chance in hell. Yep. Real estate 2021, what to expect? Crash update. Mortgage applications drop. Is the housing boom over? So we've got numbers to share, and I'm not saying the market doesn't have the potential to crash. What do you think, Pat?
I don't see. I mean, I've been doing it 21, 22 years, and I mean, will there be a softening? Yeah, but there's nothing that, like you said, in 06, 07, I saw something, I got really nervous. And, here, because the supply demand equation, demand is very high, supply is very tight. That equation is going to move around, but I don't see anything in the horizon unless rates went from 3 to say 6% or 7%. You're going to see a softening like you and I have talked about, but I just don't see it. I mean, The housing, the loan programs are still, the lenders are tightening up. Actually, just a quick side note. Quicken just raised their minimum credit score for self-employed borrowers up to 780.
Wow.
And I talked to the rep and I said, why'd you, what? Basically what they did was, it wasn't a Fannie Mae thing or Freddie Mac, but they said that they wanted to just make sure that they saw quality self-employed borrowers coming in versus, qualifying somebody who say 660, 670, 680. So they're just kind of tightening up the gate of how many people they let in. It's not just
self-employment with small business being in the precarious situation that it is. That makes sense.
Yeah. And they don't want to have the fringe self-employed borrowing right now. Cause like I told you last couple months that they've been really hammering, you can get a loan if you're self-employed, but they're looking at year-to-date audit, unaudited year-to-date profit and loss statements. They want 3 months instead of 2 months bank statements. They want 3 months bank statements. If you're self-employed, you just got to be ready to just say, take a deep breath. If you got good credit and you think you can get a loan, you can get a loan, but they're going to ask for A to Z on the paperwork.
I made a comment on one of the YouTube channels yesterday because I didn't quite agree with this content. And I wasn't snarky about it. I just said, well, you might consider this. And some guy got snarky and he said, it's guys like you that told us to buy in 07 and 08. Well, first of all, I wasn't a realtor in 07 and 08. And my reply was, well, guys like me sold in 2006 because we saw what was coming, because we looked at the data. It was obvious to everybody in 2006 what was happening. There was tremendous overbuilding. There was a year's worth of inventory versus today there's less than 2 weeks.
Home builders have pulled back actually their home building.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. The difference between 2006 and now, it has nothing to do with realtors telling you it's a good time to buy. I can have this channel every day and say it's a good time to buy. It's a good time to buy. It's not going to alter the market in Arizona. And I remember I was selling a house in California. I was taking a huge loss on it because there was a big recession. And I was moving. It was a corporate move. And we priced it according to the market. And there was a real estate agent that was working the neighborhood a lot. I'd be out mowing my grass and he'd come up and say, hello. Well, I hired the guy. And somebody goes, oh, you hired him? He's driving prices down here in the Village of Heritage. And I said, no, he's not. The market is. So you sent me some charts the other day, and I want to pull up one here. And this is showing the chart of home equity cashed out refinances. Look at 5, 6, and 7. How much money in those red bars people were taking out of their equity compared to now on the right-hand side.
And can I go a little bit further on that chart? Yeah. In 05, 06, 07, if you could put the cursor on that area, just circle around it right there, the red. I was in that time frame. They weren't pulling money out to redo their home, redo the bathrooms, redo the kitchen, to upgrade their house. They're buying cars. They're buying boats. They're buying extra cars. They're going on vacation. They're buying another home. They're basically leveraging maybe some more homes. I mean, just if they own 3 homes, they're going to 6 or 7 homes. Like I said, the biggest I saw, because I saw that time frame, people were just pulling cash out, being willy-nilly with it. Now you go to 18, 19, and 20, where they increase the home equity. Everybody I've talked to that's taken cash out has done it. I would say 9 out of 10 people have pulled out cash to redo their house, put $40,000, $50,000 equity to build more equity in their home.
Or they paid down debt.
Or paid down some serious debt.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
The 18, 19, 20 cash out home equity, the increase there, that was smarter money than 05, 06, and 07. Much smarter.
Yep. Let me show you the next picture here if I can find it. This is distribution of loans. Trying to zoom in here, sorry.
Yeah. Take that little bar there, yeah.
Distribution of loans in active forbearance. So here's what we're hearing on these YouTube channels. Forbearances are out there, and when that resets, we're going to have a wave of foreclosures. It's terrible. The foreclosures are coming. So here's the forbearance chart right now. Okay. As of September 22nd. So it's 2 months ago. Tell me what this means. 91% have at least 11% equity.
Yeah.
And this is from Black Knight. This isn't from title companies or lenders. This is a third party that tracks. So we're not seeing people are in huge trouble. If I go back to the next,
62% have 70% equity. So you get a $300,000 home. You know, you've got what, 80, 90,000 equity. I mean, that's 70, you know, you got 62, 72, you got, yeah, they said 91% have 11% equity. Back in 06, 07, 08, I bet you that I'd be a betting man that chart is flipped around where 62% was 100% or higher.
Yeah, everybody ate up their equity back then. They didn't stand a chance. Now, the flip side of the argument that people are making is saying that well, that equity is going to disappear when all these homes flood the market. And I want to touch on that just a little bit later of what it's going to take for homes to flood the market. And next slide. So this is of the, for crying out loud, you think I've never done this before? Okay. Of the 5,760,000 families granted forbearance, this is what happened upon the expiration of the plan. So they went in March and April, and the end of September, it was the end of the first phase of the plan, right?
Yep.
So 500,000 people paid off their mortgage. That meant they probably sold their home. 481,000 expired, delinquent, and in loss. So 481,000 of those people are in trouble. These 2 million of them got out of forbearance and they were still performing on their loans. 2.3 million extended their forbearance. And then 80,000 people nationally are severely delinquent. That's not a crash.
No. So
that's where we're at in the forbearance right now. And I agree. Terry says, I think that with COVID and holidays, there's a lot of seller demand to list. After the vaccine, maybe a flood of new listings. Terry, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Because let's think about how many people do you think are actually sitting back waiting to list? Because normal in Arizona, we have, 20,000 homes. We have 8,000 homes right now. In fact, today we have 8,227, one of the lowest Fridays ever, simply because we're getting into Thanksgiving and and COVID spiking up. But if it doubles, then that still won't be a normal market. If it triples, we'll be close to a normal market. I feel like if that number doubles, the bidding wars back off. But we're going to have to triple those numbers to get to normal. So what is the trigger that's going to make it triple? How many people are actually waiting for COVID to be over to sell their homes and nobody knows? And the reason I don't think that's going to be a huge number of listings just flooding. Oh, great. We've got the vaccine. Let's go. Let's list. Because so many have refinanced down below 3%. They're like, I think I'm going to stay put.
Yeah. I mean, you get rates, you got 30-year rates, 2.5% to 3%. People are sitting at 2 3/4. Like they're just comfortable.
Yeah, they wanted to downsize, but then they're like, well, if I downsize, I'll end up with a bigger payment. So it's that, but those are the numbers that we're going to watch. So Terry, you're a regular watcher coming in here and you see the numbers. So, if we start getting good news on the vaccine and everything, then we're going to be watching that 8,200 number very closely. If we start seeing it's going up on a rapid rate, then you are 100% correct.
Yeah.
So, we can only speculate, but that's the first number to watch. That's the canary in the coal mine right there. Saw headline 2, loan applications dropped 5%. Well, showings 2 weeks ago dropped by 93% because people voted and then stayed home. It's a lot of anxiety. It doesn't surprise me that mortgage apps dropped 5%, but we are going to need back-to-back mortgage application declines in the double digits compared to last year for that to be an impact, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So 5%, you know.
Yeah, 5% is nothing. I mean, you know, the purchase market's been, you know, on the mortgage side, yeah, people have been busy with purchases, but we could be a lot busier if there were homes out there for people to buy to finance.
Yeah.
They're just, I mean, that's been holding pretty steady. People, mortgage brokers, and you know, like myself, have been busy based on, you know, obviously refis because rates have been so low. But once again, there's no inventory. If people aren't, you know, there's no inventory out there for people to buy. I mean,
well, I had friends down here from went to high school with her and her brother up in Port Angeles. Terry knows where that is. And they said they wanted to explore 55 and over communities. So they gave me some criteria. They wanted between 300 and 400,000. They wanted a 3-bedroom home. They would prefer a pool, but it was okay if we didn't have one. And they wanted to start out looking in Sun Lakes. So I showed them both of the homes that were available in Sun Lakes that fit that criteria, or 2. I mean, the rest are all 2 bedrooms down there. After exploring all the areas, they decided that Sun City West up in Surprise gave them more of the homes and styles that they were looking for and more inventory. And they're not talking about coming down until March. So I told them, you know, stay close in contact because we need to look at the inventory. What's different now in some of these places, and even seeing it in Anthem, is a lot of the snowbirds that come out have made the decision not to come out, and they put long-term renters in their house for a year. So I know across the street from my second cousin up in Anthem, she says, I've got 4 renters. What's going on here? 4 rentals. I said, well, Anthem's pretty popular with people from the Midwest owning as a second home. Because of COVID, they're not flying out. And so they just said, let's just long-term rent it this year.
Yeah.
And that's going on a lot in the over 55 communities as well. They're not coming out. And they don't list their homes until they come out. So Sun Lakes, I think, has maybe 29 homes on the market. And usually in January, we have 125. So that's another number we're going to watch closely. Will there be a spring of listings?
Yeah.
But has there been any other lending tightening that you've seen besides what Quicken did with self-employed?
Pretty much that, self-employed. And then, I'm not getting as many as property inspection waivers with 20% down. I think Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac has kind of tightened up. 6-7 months ago, some of the LOs from our company have been complaining that they're not seeing as many property inspection waivers on refinances. And, you can buy back 6-7 months ago, you could purchase a home and put 20% down and not have to get an appraisal because you get a property inspection waiver. But now it seems like the algorithms are changing where, I had a loan refinance that was 68% loan to value and I didn't get a property inspection waiver. So the funny thing is with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, month to month to month, every version they come out with software update, they can tighten it or they expand these guidelines like a balloon. So that's, people don't understand, like agents don't understand, and clients, really particular clients, not so much agents, but some agents that are not in the know. Like why do things change? And like I said, they basically expand the software update. They can tighten or they can expand based on how the market's going. That's why I'm saying every couple of months they come up with new guidelines. And
I saw some numbers last week somebody shared talking about commercial real estate, showing how much the major banks had put in their reserves anticipating problems. And at first, they were building up their reserves just based on Amazon alone. And after COVID, in March, they pumped a lot of money in reserves, expecting to have some major problems. They have since backed off those reserves by quite a bit. So they feel comfortable in being able to handle the projection of defaults that they're going to have on commercial property.
Well, I was golfing with today I was golfing with this commercial banking group, and people are busy, believe it or not, which is kind of goes against thinking, but they they've been, a lot of these guys have been busy.
One of my past clients, I sold him a townhome last year, about 2 years ago. And his job is he monitors, he audits banks for the Fed. And so I sent him a property report and said, here's the approximate value of your townhome right now. And I said, so anything scary going on in banking? And he sent back and he said, no red flags yet. And he said, however, it depends on how long we're locked down.
Yeah.
And there's just some funky stuff going on between the Treasury and the Fed right now. And there's clearly no programs to help small business or individuals because of how out of control these election results are. And we're gonna, I don't expect anything to happen till January now. So there's plenty that could still go wrong, but he felt confident that, that there aren't any red flags yet. And he gets down in the weeds. I mean, he's auditing these banks. So he sees things you and I don't have any exposure to at all.
Yeah.
And I expect, based on the current, like we put 3,718 homes under contract on the past 7 days. We sold 4,000 of them. The buyer traffic's back up to pre-election volume. The listings coming on board are down about 300 to 400 units. That's telling you prices are not going down. They're going to go up at their continued 20% clip. But what is easy to predict right now, Pat, I think we're going to reach an affordability threshold.
Yeah.
And we're naturally going to slow down because you're going to, first-time home buyers, I don't blame you for giving up. It's hard to get that down payment.
Yeah.
It's hard to save the money, and it's frustrating to be outbid by $30,000 and $40,000 on a, $375,000 home.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, there's a reality of it that they are getting pushed out.
You were telling me yesterday about looking at points and ways that you can get people some help on closing costs, though.
Yeah. Can I share my screen? Can I?
Yeah, down the button, you got that share screen button.
Okay.
It might show your Google search on trying to grow your beard faster, but
yeah. Am I sharing? I just shared it. It says stop sharing. Let's see.
Here we go.
There we go. Okay, so how can I increase this? No. Can you do it on your end?
No, I can't. That's as big as it's going to get.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm just going to show. Can you see my cursor?
If you're watching on mobile, you're toast, but on desktop, I can see it if I lean in. So.
All right. What I wanted to share with you, I'm going to keep my cursor. I'm going to share the numbers with you, but one way that I can help, we heard that one agent talking about first-time home buyers really getting pushed out. And I saw that video and it kind of dawned on me because he was talking about down payment and closing costs. How somebody, all right, you're buying say a $400,000 house. If you're conventional, 5%, you can go 3% down, but technically you really want to get to 5% because 3%. That there's 3% down conventional down payment programs out. They're not down payment programs, but yeah, minimum 3% for conventional. There's income limitations with that, and there's certain limitations with that. So if you can get to 5%, which is $20,000, you and I, Rick, and I mentioned this to you yesterday, that me as a broker, I can help the client on the closing cost side of it. And this number right here is 3%. Now this green number is really high. It's $99,263. Now this next one is 2.875, which is $6,752. That's the amount of money that I can give a credit to for anybody, for whether a first-time home buyer or somebody buying a house. So if you got the down payment, but you're like, Rick, if a client came to you and said, Rick, I'm short $6,000 or $7,000 for the closing costs. Guess what? You and I working together, rather than getting, say, 2.5 right here, which is in the red, that's basically the par rate. Let's say if somebody had the money to the closing costs on the down payment and they said, hey, I just want to get the lowest rate. Right here, 2.5, is a cost of $437. But if Joe Smith said, hey, Pat, I don't have any money for closing costs, but I got the down payment, I can bump his rate up from 2.5 to 2.875, which technically is not a heck of a lot. I mean, we're talking probably, on a $400,000 house, we're talking about 75. I'm kind of giving rough estimates, $75, $80, $90 a month. But I can go from that. I can pay for $6,700 all your closing costs with just that little bump in rate. And given that $6,700, if you figure out the numbers, I mean, that is, okay, say it's an $80 bump in payment times 12, that's $960. I mean, basically, you're looking at a 7-year payback in cost. If I divided the months, that I'm saying, that would the months in payment, increase in payment. So,
and I don't think a lot of people know that with just moving around the rate a little bit, that they can get closing cost credits.
Yeah, I literally can give you $9,000 credit with from going from a 2.5 to 3%. And you know what? 3% is still a killer rate.
Yeah.
I can stay in the twos and give you $6,700. Now, this is with a 5% down loan at about $495,000. So you're putting, let's say, $25,000 down. So you got $25,000 in the bank, and you're like, hey, I'm short about $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. I don't know where to get it. I can throw that into the deal. We got a done deal.
Well, Terry's putting down here, Biden says he's going to offer a $15,000 credit for first-time home buyers. Let me tell you what that's going to do. Absolutely nothing. Here's how it's going to work. So he becomes president January 21st. They put together all the things they want to do. That will be part of a large package. And if by some miracle it passes the Senate, all depending on who gets in the Senate, it won't even be passed until June. And then they're going to put it into law at the end of 2021. So now you're going to buy a home in 2022 and get that $15,000 tax credit. And a tax credit just means, okay, here's your bill. Now you can take $15,000 off of that, not $1,500, $15,000. You're not going to see, you still have to come up with that money up front. You're not going to see that tax credit until 2023.
They said they did that. Remember, they did that in Obama 08, 09. They did the credit. And if I can't recall what it was all about, but yeah, it was a tax credit like that. But they said this one's going to be literally at closing, $15,000. But
they're going to try and give it to you at closing.
Even then, okay, you're talking about a $300,000 home. Okay, that's 5%. That's $15,000. People are still. I mean, the credit helps. It might help, but you know what? They're going to probably they'll have income limitations on it. I don't see where they're it's not going to be a mass. So this is a 15,000 between you and me. It was just a ploy for him to throw that out there and say that so he get more votes. I mean, that's just my opinion, because I'll be hell damned if that really is going to come to fruition, because I think it'll help. Out of 100 people, it'll probably help 10 or 15 people, if that.
Well, those kind of things pass if housing's in trouble, and housing's not in trouble. So if you're trying to, so he's saying he's going to give it up front. Well, look, if our issues that we have right now is that we have unaffordability because the market's heating up, are you going to propose something that's going to heat it up even more?
Yeah. And first-time home buyers, and who's to say that the seller, there's probably going to be stipulations on credit. I mean, they always have, it's always sounds nice, but you look at the fine print, and me being a mortgage broker, I've seen these programs. You start digging into the fine print and the guidelines, you're like, I can help one out of 50 people with this program. I
don't trust the government, any administration trying to help us in housing. In fact, if they just let the free market go, we'd be a lot better off. There'd be a little bit of pain with it, but to quote Jack Kemp, when he used to be the housing and urban development, he said, if it wasn't for the government in housing, we wouldn't need the government in housing. In other words, if we just stay out of it, we probably wouldn't have to put programs together to help it.
Yeah.
And so you always end up with unintended consequences, and it bothers me. And especially using taxes as incentives, even the mortgage write-off, they don't have that in Canada. And Canada is something to watch this year because their central bank has stopped buying mortgage-backed securities. So it'll be interesting to see if that helps, because their market's overheating. So they're going to test the waters first, and we'll see what bubbles up or crashes up there. Yeah. But for now, with our inventory sitting at 8,200 and we're selling 4,000 homes a week, so we're gobbling up more than what's coming on every week. By the time we get to January, boy, there's going to have to be an explosion of listings in January to even come close to getting us out of the bidding wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish it wasn't so, but I mean, that's what the numbers are telling us right now. So when you go back and look at the YouTube gurus that are telling you crashes come, and listen to it and see if you can pick up on what they're telling you is going to be the catalyst for the increase in inventory. Is it going to be really high unemployment that we can't overcome? That could be it. Is it going to be foreclosures because of the forbearance thing? Well, based on the numbers we're looking at, that doesn't look like it's going to be. So what is it that's going to give us this high inventory outside of just pent up demand by sellers waiting for COVID to be over? Yeah. That's what you need to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because people are using this logic, just because we saw a crash in 08, 09 and, prices have gone up, and just to say we're having another crash. I mean,
there's a common denominator in the people on YouTube that I'm seeing that, and this is going to sound really silly, that are really touting the crash is coming, the crash is coming. None of them are over 50.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to disparage millennials. All I'm saying is, you saw a crash when you were in your late 20s and you think it's a reoccurring problem.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be 66 next month, and I'll give you my address here. You guys can send me, some wine. That's the only crash I've seen, Pat. I've seen ups and downs. That's the only crash I've seen.
Yeah.
I've seen many up and downs. I've seen the market get where it's really hard to sell your house, but you're looking at a 10% decline in the equity, but you could still write it out. I saw where you couldn't buy a home if you were, a first-time home buyer, and then all of a sudden you could. Unfortunately, the days of buying one as a single income family, I don't know when that's going to take a huge banking reset for those days to come back. But crashes are not cyclical occurrenrences.
No, I mean, softening is, you get the rolling, you're going to see downturns where, maybe prices do loosen up by 5 or 10%. But people have to realize that 07, 08, 09, we saw a 50% decline.
Yeah.
We saw houses that were 400,000 sell below 200,000, and $200,000 homes sell for 85 and 90,000. So, in this crash, not this crash, but we're going to see, you and I have come to, there's supply demand that's going to be pushing. We're starting to push that balloon, that hot, tough, it's a tight balloon, but things loosen up. But I don't see anything in the like you said, in the future that says we're going to see a crash. Like I said, once again, 07, 08, 09, or 9, 10 was a 50% from top to bottom, basically across the board in Phoenix. And I'm sorry, but I'll put all my money I've got to say that we're not going to see prices drop like a crash.
50%. No. And I was told in one of the videos, a comment that one of our viewers made that said, I think you're too optimistic. And I commented back and I said, actually, I'm not optimistic for the long term. I'm not. Yeah. I'm being a realist in where we are right now and the impact on pricing for the next 6 to 9 months. That's undisputable. But the fuse has been lit for a debt bomb.
Yeah.
Both nationally and globally. The problem is, I don't know how long the fuse is.
Yeah.
So the debt bomb is coming. We've got way too much debt, and we're beyond the point of growing out of it. And housing, believe it or not, can still keep going to where the average Joe just can't even participate in that market. But there's other people doing real well in it. And you see it right now. And we may be kicking this debt bomb down the road another 5 years. Things don't look really rosy 3 years out, because if things really get going, the Fed's going to have to, it's like taking a punch bowl away from the party, and they're going to have to let rates start to come up. And they tried that in March of 2019 or 18, and it did not end well. It's like immediately the bond market reacted and things went to hell in a handbasket. So I'm not this optimistic guy that thinks that we're just going to ride this great economic train. I'm very, very concerned for my kids.
Yeah.
But I still think, look, if you can get in a home and you got a 2.5% interest rate and that rate's fixed, well, at least your rent's not going up. But good luck getting in one. And it's tough, and I get it. And I understand it. And it's this price increase in Arizona is not being driven by those terrible Californians, because prices are going up in Colorado. They're going up in Texas. They're going up in Tennessee. It's just a mechanism of the environment that we're in with low rates and tight inventory. And it's, as people say, well, is it tight in Tucson? Is it tight in Prescott? It's tight everywhere except for San Francisco and New York City.
Yeah. Yeah. Everywhere.
Even with this mass exodus out of LA, prices in LA are still going up. I don't know who's buying them.
I don't know.
We can't even, the MLS, we can't even go in and see accurately how many Californians are buying, because they don't always put the address that they left. The only thing we've got to go on is something as simple as U-Haul rates. You know, how much does it cost to bring a U-Haul truck from LA to Phoenix versus Phoenix to LA? And it's tenfold. So that's all we got.
Well, again, I think a lot of people, I mean, obviously everybody wants to buy low and sell high. And, I think when it comes down to homes, you got to look at a home as a home and not just a stock where you buy it at 10, you sell it at 20. I think a lot of people have kind of taken this mentality of homes as almost like a commodity you can trade. And if you got, I think, when's the best time to buy a home is like when you got the money and your situation's the best. Yeah. Okay. If you buy a $450,000 home and it dips down 5%. I mean, you're going to have those dips, but I mean, I've got people that I've talked to in the last couple of years that bought a home in 05, 06, and they didn't default on their loan, and they were chugging away, and they got equity now. So
I moved to Albany, New York in 90, I can't remember. And Cuomo, the first Cuomo was the governor, and then Pataki was taken over, and Governor Cuomo had massive layoffs in state government. He just laid everybody off after the elections. Not sure why, but I had just bought in Albany. It's like, great. I paid $132,000 for the home. And my taxes were, I want to say $4,500 for that. And and then I was transferred to Rochester, New York a year later, and I was in the bread business. I was a regional sales manager out there, and Rochester just never had Kodak. Kodak was the employer in town, and they refused to recognize digital as the new wave of the future. They were still, away they go. And then Walmart transferred all of their film from Kodak to Fuji. Well, guess how much my house was worth then?
$60,000.
Well, I bought one for $164, and I can't remember what I sold it for when I came out here. But I guess my point is, you've got all these government influences, and you've got the global economy, and you've got interest rates, but there's just local stuff that comes up and just bites you in the butt. But you can ride it out. That house is worth a lot more now. It's beautiful. I miss the state of New York, except for this time of year. But you're going to get hit. You're going to get slapped, and then it's going to come back. And then this may be a pretty huge slap, but I think there's nothing. The biggest slap is right now that you just can't get in. That to me is a harder hit than getting in and watching your equity go down a bit, because you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But if you can sell, and if you're even thinking of selling, I mean, I've been shouting from the rooftops, put it on. I did a coming soon listing up in Anthem. I was going to put it on the market on Tuesday last week. And, you know, we get to put it on the MLS and say, just going to be ready for showing, because the photographer wasn't coming till Tuesday morning. I wasn't able to get out there till Monday to do the 3D tour, but I had 3 agents call me and say, is there any way that we can see this before Tuesday? And I said, well, let me check with the sellers and see when they're leaving town, because they got 2 big dogs and they're going to Houston to look for a home. So I said, hey, guess what? I can get you in Monday afternoon. We accepted a contract, or Sunday afternoon. We accepted a contract that night. And it came in over asking price. And so we were, you know, coming soon, put it on, boom, done. And so that's how brisk the market is. So if you're going to sell your home, negotiate on the commission, folks. Don't go with the iBuyers like Zillow and Open Door that's going to offer you a lowball offer, but, you know, make it easy for you and have fewer showings. You're not going to have that many showings. You don't need that many showings. And right now, and realtors are going to be screaming at me for saying this, we don't have to spend a lot of marketing dollars right now. In fact, the other agent said, I just saved you a bunch of marketing dollars, Rick. And then that does cost money. So negotiate. There's, you know, I mean, I do negotiate on my fees all the time. I don't dig my heels in. And if the market's really brisk, commission rate should come down.
Yeah.
If we've got low or high inventory and it's hard to sell a home, you know, then you should pay a higher commission, because there's a lot that has to go into advertising and finding you a buyer. So now I'm going to wait for the hate emails from, you know, the National Association of Realtors, but that's just how I feel.
Well, and, you know, speaking of, when we talk about, just one last point, I'm get rolling here, but you know, it goes back to leverage too. When you talk about people buying a, you know, I've talked to people in the past about leverage. You know, $400,000 house, you put 5% down, $20,000. You know, that's you're putting $20,000 down. But if you buy a $400,000 house, you put $200,000 down. That's real hard money. Now, if the house goes down from 400,000 to say 350, your pain is a lot less if you put 5% down your leverage, because you only got 5% of your money in it. Now, if you buy a $400,000 house and you put $100,000 down, you're kind of that. You know, I know sometimes I'm not succinct with my point, but you put that $100,000 down, it's going to hurt you a lot more. That's why that's why people say, should I put 20% down? I say, you know what? If that's what you've got, leverage yourself, put 5 or 10% down. Because if you get a great credit score, your PMI is very minimal with, you know, so to leverage yourself does help, because like I said, prices do come down. If you put the $100,000 down, that's going to hurt a lot more than if you just put $25,000 down, because that value is coming down in just perceived value of the house. It's not real hard money. Hopefully that point.
Yeah, so we got a storm here we got to ride out. And I think, like I say, I still think personally, it feels worse to not get the house right now than it does to go, oh, I bought it at 400,000. Now it's only worth 385. Don't worry about it. That'll eventually go away. The graph does this over the long term. It doesn't do this and then come. It does that rarely. So I'm very when this first stay-at-home order came in, I was very bearish. But from looking at the numbers, tracking them every week, even if we have high unemployment, a lot of the unemployment that we're seeing now is not in the high-end businesses like Intel and stuff, and maybe that'll change. But it wasn't, you know, there wasn't a huge wave of home buyers that got hit yet. So we need to watch that carefully. So we're going to cut out. Hey, if there's anybody local in Arizona, my son is looking for a nice little economical used car under $4,000. So hit me up if you got one. His went belly up yesterday. So I'm picking him up down the street and taking him home here in a few minutes. And by the way, 63% of our viewers have not subscribed to the channel, Pat.
All right, get on it.
What's up with that? smash that like button. That tells YouTube that you like this, and we can continue adding more content. They don't pay us. We have no sponsors. Just me and good old Pat. So.
Yep.
All right. Have a super weekend. Glad you hit them long and straight.
Say hello to goodbye, subscribers, and we will talk to our millions next week.
Well, yeah, we'll be here. See ya.
All right, buddy. Ciao.